The safety is off. There's a round in the chamber. This is Armed Alabama. Sponsored by McCoy Outdoor Company, Mobile's hometown full-line outdoor sporting products and gear store. An interactive talk show discussing self-defense, product reviews, shooting tips, safety, and more. Your calls, comments, and texts welcome at 343-0106. Now, here are your hosts, retired judge and certified NRA instructor Rusty Johnston and certified NRA law enforcement instructor Adam Strange.
All right, welcome to Armed Alabama. So glad you could join us tonight for this May 24th edition of Armed Alabama. I am one of your hosts, Adam Strange. I hold 11 different firearm certifications, including use of a handgun and rifle, inside, outside residence, inside and outside or around the vehicle. Plus, I hold NRA law enforcement instructor certifications for handgun, shotgun, and patrol rifle. And the other host here is Judge Johnston.
And I'm now a CPA. You may would like to know that, a conservative political activist.
Aren't we all?
On this show, you'll get no PC and no Marxism. So be ready for a purist show here tonight. Adam, what's on our agenda?
We have a busy show tonight, and we also have a full studio. We have a lot of friends of ours joining us tonight. So I'm sure we'll be cutting up throughout the evening. Of course, our show will be on self-defense, firearm and ammo selection, home protection, concealed carry, training, range, proper range etiquette, which is so lacking. And so a lot of times we go to range, we see that. And, of course, Alabama law and the Code of Alabama 13A. If you would like to call into the studio, our number is 251-343-0106. You can call or text. We'll be glad to answer those texts. And check us out on our social media. Facebook page is Armed Alabama, FM Talk 106.5, and we're on Twitter as well as Armed Alabama 106.5, and our website is armedalabama.com. And the judge does a really good job of keeping up with our YouTube channel, and our channel is Armed Alabama, of course.
And I've put a couple of good videos up there. One is Self-Defense Level 11, which is a we'll call it a tank to be simple. Shows you how to operate a tank, which is in Self-Defense 11.
Sounds great. Got to check that out. We have a lot of first-time listeners tonight, and last week our social media sites have just gone crazy. We're just overwhelmed with the number of contact, social media shares and emails. We've just been overwhelmed, and we'd like to thank everybody for your comments, your shares, the amount of website traffic we have, and, of course, your support and listening to our show. We are very grateful. Like I say, we have a lot of new listeners, so I just want to hit real quick that we also, from time to time, will be hosting defensive firearm courses. Last course that we had was Saturday, May 9th at Three Brothers Range on Highway 59 north of I-10 near Stapleton. Judge, we had a really good class. We had some good shooters. We had some individuals and ladies that had never shot a firearm before, and they left the class. They left the class feeling like they could use their firearm in defense of themselves and defense of their family. And, of course, that was at Three Brothers Arms, and we thank them for their hospitality. We look forward to doing a lot more classes there. And we will definitely be teaching those classes in the future. So if you're interested in those classes, and of course, the judge provides a really in-depth section on Alabama law and your constitutional rights.
And now that I have a new computer here, we won't have the PowerPoint failing like we did last time.
Great. And so if you want to get on our list for that, you can email us. Armed is Adam at Armed Alabama, and, of course, the judge at Armed Alabama. Judge, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, I've got an interesting story out of New York City where the police are notoriously bad shots, but this one even shocks people who know all about that. A man who was waving a knife in the middle of the road was confronted by two police officers who shot at him a number of times, and 4 of the shots hit his, I guess, I've seen the word all my life and bought their products, Carhartt. His Carhartt jacket stopped 4 of the 9mm 124 grain plus P hollow points. Actually stopped them. And it wasn't a bulletproof jacket. It was a plain Carhartt jacket. Now, one of the shots that the police shot at him hit a bystander. And finally, one of the shots hit him. I'm not sure whether it killed him or not. But that is amazing. There's no explanation for it. But just like that, we had, I don't want to identify him, obviously, but one of our probation officers here was shot with a I'm not sure. I think it was the Winchester brand of the hollow point. Shot him right through the neck. It did not expand, went right through his neck, and thank goodness he no permanent neurological injury or anything. So we were just talking earlier. I think a lot of the hype about self-defense ammunition is just that hype. So you just never know. The only thing I'll say is whatever you plan to use in your handgun, test it out. Run at least 50 rounds through it to make sure that it cycles properly. There's so many people, because they're expensive. They're probably 3 or 4 times the price of full metal jackets. But run it through your handgun 50 times to make sure they don't hang up and they cycle properly.
That's some of the biggest questions I get all the time is like, at what time do I use my personal protection round? Do I practice with it? And it's good. A lot of times people will buy the firearms and, and they'll go and buy the practice rounds, but they will not practice with their personal defense round to see how the weapon will do with it, to see if it'll cycle. I like to carry a 9mm, and so with that, I will carry 147 grain, which is one of the heavier bullets you can get in 9mm. I like that heavier round.
Well, if you work for the U.S. government, they provide the expensive hollow point rounds to practice with.
Well, it's good to use those to make sure your weapon will cycle those and be effective. The last thing you want to do is have to use your firearm in a defensive situation and find out your gun jams. Of course, there's methodologies to declare those jams, and that's a very important thing to learn, and that's one of the things we advocate during our concealed carry and home defense courses.
And by the way, if your semi-automatic jams a lot, check your magazine out, get a new magazine, and see if it jams with that magazine. 9 times out of 10, it is a particular magazine that's causing the problem. So before you send it back for repairs, check the magazine out first.
Yeah, because a lot of people will load a magazine up and it'll stay. That magazine will be loaded to capacity and it'll stay that way for a year, 2 years, or what have you. And that is the worst thing for a spring.
It'll cause a problem, and it's just not loading properly. Or there's certain brands I've mentioned before. I've never had any luck with a brand called ProMag. Maybe somebody has. They've always caused problems with me. But just try another magazine and see if it works before you get all hysterical about it.
Correct. A good tidbit on that is, at least have 3 magazines at least for your firearm. Keep 2 of them loaded and keep 1 magazine at rest. And then you rotate those magazines out. And that way you're cycling it and you don't have that spring memory or that metal fatigue within that spring that eventually cause a failure, as you discussed, Judge.
And, if you use your magazines a lot, there's nothing wrong with cleaning them. They're fairly easy to take apart, but at least in my experience, don't oil them, just clean them. And if you feel like you need something, they're dry lubricants that you can put in there. But the oil attracts the dirt and grit, et cetera. But, I clean them with the 90% alcohol to get all that stuff out in a rag. But there are people that have had magazines for 25 years. They've never cleaned them, and all kind of mess gets in there.
All right. We get close to coming up on our break here, but we definitely want to talk about a lot of different things that's going on in the state.
Especially these phony no-gun signs.
Yeah.
We've been getting pictures of them coming in. And, as I said before, do you really want to trust a merchant that puts those signs up in the window because they're telling you something that's absolutely false. And now you're going to give them your credit card. So there's really something to think about. Most merchants don't qualify under the law to be a gun-free zone. So if you have any questions about anything or no gun signs, give us a call here at the station at 251-343-0106. 0106. They have a different number for everything here. We'll see you back after the break at Armed Alabama.
If your spine is in a bind, it's time to be aligned. For 20 years, Dr. Justin Foster has been diagnosing and taking care of spinal problems. Misaligned vertebrae can hurt due to a strain or sprain from an accident, or be injured by repeated use and can lead to a pinched nerve if not fixed. Pinched nerves can cause a series of discomforts, including decreased flexibility, headaches, muscle, joint, disc, and nerve pain. Foster Chiropractic of Tillman's Corner, easy to find across from Lowe's off Rangeline. Looking for land, commercial space, or a home to purchase? Or do you have real estate that you would like to sell? Then you need to talk with Mamoon Siddiq at RE/MAX Partners, 7221 Grelot Road, Suite B. Mamoon is dedicated to providing his clients trustworthy real estate expertise and professional, dependable service. Whether buying or selling your primary residence or a second home, or relocating to a new neighborhood, Mamoon can help make your home ownership dreams come true. Email Mamoon at remax.net. That's MAMUN at remax.net. When buying a vehicle, don't waste your valuable time. David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota is committed to getting you the best deal on a new, used, or leased car. And David will do that without wasting your time. Don't play the back and forth game. See David Parnell today. Palmer's Toyota, 470 Schillinger Road South. That's David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota, 639-0800, extension 168. Don't forget to see David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota, Schillinger Road, just south of Airport. He won't waste your time.
Step up to the firing line. Armed Alabama is back. Questions, comments, and texts at 343-0106.
Survival kit contents check. In them you'll find 145 caliber automatic, 2 boxes of ammunition, 4 days concentrated emergency rations, 1 drug issue containing antibiotics, morphine, vitamin pills, pep pills, sleeping pills, tranquilizer pills, 1 miniature combination Russian phrase book and Bible, $100 in rubles, $100 in gold, 9 packs of chewing gum, 1 issue of prophylactics, 3 lipsticks, 3 pair of nylon stockings. Shoot, a fella could have...
The story is that, that's, of course, Slim Pickens from Dr. Strangelove, that he said a fella could have a pretty good time in Dallas with all this stuff, and that was right about the time of JFK's assassination, so they dubbed in Vegas with all this stuff. Welcome back to Armed Alabama. One thing I wanted to mention is we were talking about the phony gun signs. If you would look in the Alabama Code, and I'll get you the citation in a minute, you can get it all online. You don't have to buy a book or everything. It will tell you the places that you cannot carry a firearm. And believe me, I'm not singling this person out for ridicule or all, but I had a long discussion at 3 a.m. in the morning with him on the social media page, on our Facebook page. And he says, well, there's one at he said there's one at Bel Air Mall. And I said, well, from what I know about Bel Air Mall, I hadn't been there in a long time, but that wouldn't qualify. And then he named some other place, and he said, well, I guess this place would qualify. And like I say, I'm not trying to be funny, but it was obvious to me that he did not know the law on the subject. And you don't have to be a lawyer to know the law. And you just need to get into the code for a minute and look us online. Just Google Code of Alabama, 1975, and then you go to the section here. It's fairly long, but it's section 13A, 11-61.3. And it lists the places that are, it's a little deceptive because some of them say you cannot carry a gun into this area unless you have a permit that has been issued under section so-and-so. Well, that's an Alabama pistol permit. But the main one I want to talk about is the one that is kind of the catch-all. It says that, here we go, let's get it, it's the last section. It says that notwithstanding any of the provisions of the following subsection, let's see, you cannot possess or carry a firearm inside a building or facility to which the access of unauthorized persons and prohibited articles is limited during normal hours of operation by the continuous posting of guards and the use of other security features, including but not limited to magnetometers, card keys, biometric screening devices, or turnstiles or other physical barriers. So if you have a building where you have a patrol by guards and they have a magnetometer there, or you can only get in by the way of a card key, sure, they can qualify as a, quote, gun-free zone. But if you can just walk in and there are a couple of guards that patrol the place, no, they don't qualify under that. So just look it up yourself and see the areas because you ought to know the areas. Just because somebody has placed a generic no weapons or no guns doesn't mean that it's actually a no weapons or no guns. There are very few places that qualify. And if it's a government facility, there are plenty of those that are violating the law. The Attorney General has a form on his website where you should report those facilities because they're in violation of the law, and he will write them a letter first and inform them of that. If they don't take it down, he'll file a lawsuit against them. I think we have a phone call, Adam, and let's go ahead and see if we can handle
Keaton. Hi, Keaton. Welcome to Armed Alabama. Glad you could join us tonight.
Hey, how you doing?
Great.
Fine.
My question is, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I have a concealed carry permit in Alabama, and say I have a headlight out or something one day. I get pulled over. Am I required to tell the police officer right off that I have a weapon in my vehicle?
No. Where do you carry your weapon when you're in your vehicle all the time? Let me give you legally, no, you don't have to tell him. But practically,
right in my center console.
Okay, so it's out of sight. It's not in plain view. Do you keep your insurance papers or anything like that in that center console?
Nope, I make sure I don't. I keep it all in my wallet.
Okay. In my opinion, I would not tell him then. You don't have to legally, and you may run into somebody who just doesn't like the idea. You're playing cop, and you're going to be there an extra 15 minutes while you get the third degree.
Yeah.
If you have your papers someplace else, if you had your papers in the center console, then opening that up would reveal that you have a gun, and while you didn't violate the law by not telling him, he's going to get skittish because he sees a gun. But you're not going to do that because you've got them in your wallet. And so, no, the law doesn't require you to do that. He's not going to see him during the course of the traffic stop unless you tell him that he can search your car, which I would hope you would not tell him you could do that. So I wouldn't do it.
So when he asks me if I have any weapons, I'm required to tell him then?
No, you're not.
Okay.
You don't have to tell him anything. If he says, where are you coming from or where are you going, that's an illegal question. So you just don't answer the question or tell him, I'm sorry, officer, I'm not going to answer that question.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Keaton. Thank you for the call.
Nothing wrong with asking the question, but you sure don't have to answer it. A common question that's often asked is, where have you been? He can sure answer it, but you ask it, but you sure don't have to answer it. So you just either say, I don't have to tell you that, or I'd rather not tell you that, or whatever. You've got to kind of get the feel for the situation. it's actually not a crime to lie to a state law enforcement official in that situation. I certainly don't like lying to people, but I don't like people asking me questions that they shouldn't be asking me either. Remember, any firearm topic, operation of a gun, the law, anything, we'll be here to answer it for you, even threats to your right to keep and bear arms. In my opinion, if the Second Amendment were abolished tomorrow, as well as the Alabama Constitution's provisions protecting your right to keep and bear arms were abolished tomorrow, it would make no difference because that is an inalienable right that you were born with that cannot never be taken away from you. But, of course, there are a lot of people that would disagree, but under the natural law, you're born with it and it can't be taken away from you. It's never been ceded to government. That's why the government has no, and this is important, has no duty to protect you from criminal attack. You call 911, they're going to do everything they can to respond. But if they don't, and you wound up being hurt or your family being hurt, there's nothing you can do about it legally. And a lot of people are shocked to hear that, but that's always been the law, and it's because of that trade-off. The government hadn't assumed that protection, and we haven't given up our right to protect ourselves.
To go back a while ago to your statements, Judge, comments about these illegal no-gun signs at businesses or what have you, you brought up the Attorney General's website. You can go there, or you can just kind of do a Google search for Alabama 13A or Code of Alabama. But the Attorney General's website, they have a good section. There's a good resource. But to go back to the petition that you talked about, to have the AG investigate these businesses or whatever that has these signs up that really doesn't have the follow-on as according to the code, where there be armed security or some kind of security checkpoint or what have you. And you can go to that website for the AG's office and you can fill out that petition. And the AG's website is ago.alabama.gov. And you can go there under the resources tab on the far right-hand side of the page, and you can go down and click on the form section. The form is petition to bring an enforcement action under Alabama Code 13A-11-61.3. That's kind of a long name for a form, but that's it. And you can click on that, and, of course, the form comes up in a PDF, and you can either print it out and mail it in or fill it out and email it, or you can snail mail it. And it asks all the different questions that are pertinent to your observation of the particular business or location that had a no-gun sign. And it's important for everyone to be able to do that, to have that knowledge, to know what's right and what's wrong on those signs posting, because it makes a difference. You tell your family, tell your friends about it. And Judge, you and I were very vocal about the no firearm signs at the local rest areas for Alabama.
Right.
Any time that you need to have your concealed carry permit or your concealed carry firearm with you is when you're traveling.
They're high crime areas, rest
absolutely.
areas.
And then you have these signs there. And of course, everybody was very vocal about it, including you and myself. July 24th of last year, the governor rescinded that. He put out an order.
Took a year and a half.
Yeah, he put out an order to have those signs removed because of public outcry.
Part of his problem now is because he wouldn't abide by the law then. It kind of put a bad omen on him.
So with that, it does make a difference, and it's important that you talk to your congressman about these issues, you talk to your family members, you talk to your friends, and spread this information where, people will know and be wiser.
And take good pictures. I get a lot of these ones that are on angles and everything.
And that's a good point. You don't
have to hide. Take good. They're the ones that ought to be embarrassed by having the pictures.
All right, we'll discuss this topic and more when we come back after this break. We'll be back. This is Armed Alabama.
To prove I'm right.
FM Talk 1065, the Gulf Coast Weather Authority, and Dr. Bill Williams.
We'll expect mostly clear skies tonight. Low temperatures will be in the lower 60s at daybreak. For Wednesday, sunny and warm with temperatures in the upper 80s. And the outlook for Thursday, mostly sunny with afternoon readings in the upper 80s. This is meteorologist Dr. Bill Williams for FM Talk 1065.
FM Talk 1065, the Gulf Coast Weather Authority.
For FM Talk 1065, I'm Roseanne Haven, News 5. Changes for Mobile County Public Schools are on the way. The school board has decided this afternoon to close Belsaw Mount Vernon Elementary and move students at May Eanes Middle School to Williamson High School, a decision not all parents are on board with.
She will not be going to Williamson, leaving May Eanes.
Opening statements today in the ethics trial of Alabama House Speaker Mike Hubbard. His attorney told the court a 23 felony indictment against Hubbard is mumbo-jumbo. Prosecutors contend he used his office for personal gain. The search is on for a work release inmate from Baldwin County. Authorities say Jeremy Martin, 40 years old, left his assigned job in Foley yesterday. If you see him, call police. He has 3 swastika tattoos and one of Snoopy on his right arm. The city of Mobile is creating 2 new dog parks at Crawford Park and Public Safety Memorial Park in Midtown. For FM Talk 1065, I'm Roseanne Haven.
Longleaf pine is the South's original pine tree, towering over all others. Vast clear-cutting logging operations in the first half of the last century destroyed these beautiful longleaf forests, some well over 100 years old. Their wood sent to New England, New York, and Europe. Many Southerners have no memory of the magnificent longleaf forests that covered the South. The America's Longleaf Restoration Initiative is a concerted effort to restore and conserve longleaf pine forests. The best part is, it's working. For more info, visit americaslongleaf.org. Looking for land, commercial space, or a home to purchase? Or do you have real estate that you would like to sell? Then you need to talk with Mamoon Siddiq at RE/MAX Partners, 7221 Grelot Road, Suite B. Mamoon is dedicated to providing his clients trustworthy real estate expertise and professional, dependable service. Whether buying or selling your primary residence or a second home, or relocating to a new neighborhood, Mamoon can help make your home ownership dreams come true. Email Mamoon at remax.net. That's MAMUN at remax.net.
Step up to the firing line. Armed Alabama is back. Questions, comments, and texts at 343-0106.
The 45 long slide with laser sighting.
It's a brand new. We just got them in. That's a good gun. Just touch the trigger, the beam comes on, and you put the red dot where you want the bullet to go. You can't miss. Anything else?
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
Hey, just what you see, pal.
The Uzi 9mm.
You know your weapons, buddy. Any one of these is ideal for home defense. So, what shall it be?
All.
I may close early today. There's a 15-day wait on the handguns, but the rifles you can take right now. You can't do that.
Wrong.
About that phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range, which reminds me, one time McCoy's was selling those, and they sold out so quick, and they didn't have a good factory maintenance plan. The factory's fault, so they had to give up that line. But you can get about every other kind of firearm down at McCoy's, and one of the things you can do there one thing that's important is when you're buying a handgun is to just feel the grip. And you need to have 4 or 5 out you're interested in and just feel the grip. And they've got so many down there that you can go and just feel the weight, feel the grip. Does this feel good for me? And that's much better for shooting and for your home life than your husband bringing one home for you. And McCoy's has enough guns and more, and just as importantly, holsters that fit those guns. Good holsters. You know, to buy a good holster, you need to spend between, let's say, $40 and $100. Don't go buy the $5.99 holster somewhere. I've got a whole box of holsters that I've gone through for different guns. But McCoy's is down the street from where I live on Spring Hill Avenue, just west of the I-65 overpass in the old Woolco K&B Shopping Center. They have shotguns, pistols, rifles, revolvers, everything you need for your firearms. including ammunition, cleaning supplies, and then everything else your kids want there too, all the sporting clothes and everything. And they're a sponsor of our show. So they're good folks down there, and they have a gunsmith if anything happens to your gun out of warranty. McCoy Outdoors, you can check them out on their website also. Just Google McCoy Outdoors.
Judge, I was just kind of looking through, just kind of prepping for the show, looking through the internet, and I came across an article that I completely missed this week, and you may have heard it this week and last week, and that is a new law that will allow concealed carry permits to be free for a group
of
veterans. Yes, for veterans, and I totally missed that, but I found an article today and was able to read through it. And the new law does away with fees for concealed carry permit, of course, for retired military personnel. So you
actually have to be retired.
Yes, retired. Okay. And so you retirees from the Indian and the Armed Services, you need to keep that in mind next time you go down.
Get a big bonus. You can save $20 if you're here in Mobile County.
Yeah, and that measure was introduced by Representative David Stanridge of Republican of Hayden. And the governor signed the law. I think it was the first of this week. I think it was yesterday, right?
Well, one thing I was talking about on my other talk show in Springfield, Missouri, is they're required before they get their concealed carry permit to submit fingerprints. And I read the law 2 or 3 times, and I said, one thing that concerns me is y'all submit your fingerprints to the FBI. Do you get those back? And there was just silence because there was a big controversy up there that the Department of Public Safety was actually surreptitiously turning over the records of everyone that had a concealed carry permit to some agency in the federal government, and everybody went berserk, and they passed a law you couldn't do that. But they're turning over the fingerprints to the feds, and that's kind of amazing to me that we can operate like we do. And by the way, it's taken them weeks to renew their permits up there. They've changed their system, weeks. And we can do it in 10 or 15 minutes normally. But I thought that was kind of incredible.
Yeah, and we had Adam Bourne on here a few weeks ago, who was a manager of that office there for the concealed carry permits right here in downtown Mobile, and he was able to shed a lot of light on that. So we have a really good office.
Why don't we take our next call here?
All right, Wayne, welcome to Armed Alabama. Glad you can join us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I had a quick question on what I think is what they call a straw purchase of a weapon.
Right.
Could you go over that and explain that real quick? And, is it a federal deal or a state deal or both?
I know it's a federal deal. I don't think it's a state deal, but once the feds got you, it doesn't really matter. But what it is if you have an agreement or an understanding with someone that you are going to buy a gun, you're not buying it for yourself, the form asks you, federal form, are you buying this firearm for yourself? And if you answer yes, and your real intent is no, you're going to leave the place, and when you get to another location, you're actually going to transfer it, sell it, give it, whatever, to someone else, that's a straw purchase. 9 times out of 10, it's done because the person you're doing it for is not allowed under the law to buy that gun themselves.
Okay. Well, how about this? Go a little further. Suppose I want a 44 Magnum, and after I got it, I decided really I didn't want a 44 Magnum, and you are my friend, and you always wanted one, and you told me, well, since you don't want it, man, I'll take it off your hands, and so I sell it to you.
Well, if it was your intent when you bought it, that it be yours, and then let's say a week, 2 weeks, months go by, and then you sell it to somebody, and you have no idea that they are not qualified under the law to own a gun, no, that's not a straw purchase.
Okay. One more quick one along the same lines. I'm under the impression that you can give a weapon as a gift. So suppose I want to, buy a shotgun and give it to my son as a birthday present, or a 44 Magnum, or whatever. That's okay, or am I correct there about a gift?
Let me ask, how old is your son?
42.
Okay. There is a way to do that. I'm really not certain, frankly, how to do that. It's better to have him come in and receive it, buy it, and pay for it, and have him come in and receive it. Now, if you go in and your intent is to keep that gun, and you decide at some point, you know, I don't need it, I'm going to give it to him, that's something else. But I would purchase it and then say, you got to go down, I got you a gift, and you need to go into Joe's gun shop and pick it up.
Okay. Brings up a little further question. Suppose I'm buying a shotgun that I know one of these days I'm going to give it to one of my grandsons.
Yeah.
Not today. And they're little boys now, and one day I know I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
That okay?
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's still okay. I'm buying it for me. They're too young to own it, but I know ultimately I'm giving it to them.
Sure. Because you know what? You can always change your mind and give it to me.
Okay.
You know,
if you're gonna give somebody something like that, should you kind of have some sort of bill of sale deal, or is it just forget it and just give it to them?
Here's what I do now. If my son is something different, but I would still give my son a bill of sale, acknowledging that you've transferred that in case he, you know, gets on dope and kills a bunch of people.
Right.
But just to show that it's going out of your hands. If it's a stranger, and a handgun, I have asked them, do they have a concealed carry permit? If they say they do, I get a copy of it because that shows they're legal. If they say they don't, then I get a copy of their driver's license, and then I do a bill of sale.
Right. Okay.
Because you don't have to investigate them. You just have to not have knowledge that they're a person who's not allowed to own a gun. But, you know, if they come in and they just, you know, are real nervous. They're in a car that has blacked out license plates, you know. Then your sense of concern ought to rise.
Right.
But yeah, you ought to always have a paper trail, even with your children.
Right. And it would not really be a bill of sale as such. It would be more of just a transfer of property kind of.
Well, that's what a bill of sale is. Because they need that for, let's say they are getting the gun insured in 10 years in the future. In New Orleans, when they illegally were seizing people's guns, people needed to provide proof of ownership to the police to get them back.
Right.
So that's when your son would need that, or grandson, or whatever, would need that bill of sale.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for calling.
Yes, sir.
Those are some good questions.
Yeah, they are
questions that people, everyday people have regarding firearms.
Well, that's
and firearms
right.
purchases.
And you know what happened in New Orleans was so criminal that I fought the NRA for settling that case with them too much. And we might want to mention,
you're talking about Katrina.
Yeah, during Katrina, they would ask.
So you may want to educate our listeners on that.
Yeah, well, what happened? You know, we didn't have power, and a lot of people didn't know what happened, but some family would be leaving maybe right after Katrina, and the police would say, I say police, there were police from all over the country there. Do you have any firearms in the car? And law-abiding people would say, sure. And they'd say, get out. And they would search the entire car and find 2 or 3 firearms. They would seize the firearms, and they put them in old warehouses, tractor trailers. And finally, the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation sued the city. The city lied several times and said they had no firearms. When they finally admitted they did, there was a federal court injunction that said, give them back. Well, guess what? The good ones they could never find. I assume they were stolen by the people that were seizing the guns, but they would make you produce ownership information. It was a real outrage. There's a book, we need to get the author on. It was called The Great New Orleans Gun Grab, and he's got a French name. Can't quite recall his name, but we'll get him on here. But he really went in detail what happened. It was much worse than NRA has made a film that's out there about it. But, of course, they wouldn't bother the thugs and the criminals. It was the law-abiding citizen. You want to try to get this caller in? No, we better. Caller, you hang on. If you're listening on the air, we only got about 45 seconds before the break. And we'll. I think we better take you after the break.
Yeah,
we're going to run short on you.
I think we even have that video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Armed Alabama. So you can go on our channel there and you can check out that video, The Great New Orleans Gun Grab during Katrina. and not only went to car, but they went house to house as well.
They did.
And so the video just kind of entails that and what had transpired. And one elderly lady that was there.
They literally beat her up. She was about 70 years old. They entered her property, beat her up, and put her on a plane to Arkansas.
Yeah, and those were, like you said, different officers from around the nation. I think it was even California.
They were California Highway Patrolmen. Yeah. Really incredible. So if you think it can happen, it's happened once already. We'll be back after this break on Armed Alabama.
If your spine is in a bind, it's time to be aligned. For 20 years, Dr. Justin Foster has been diagnosing and taking care of spinal problems. Misaligned vertebrae can hurt due to a strain or sprain from an accident, or be injured by repeated use and can lead to a pinched nerve if not fixed. Pinched nerves can cause a series of discomforts, including decreased flexibility, headaches, muscle, joint, disc, and nerve pain. Foster Chiropractic of Tillman's Corner, easy to find across from Lowe's off Rangeline. Longleaf pine is the South's original pine tree, towering over all others. Vast clear-cutting logging operations in the first half of the last century destroyed these beautiful longleaf forests, some well over 100 years old. Their wood sent to New England, New York, and Europe. Many Southerners have no memory of the magnificent longleaf forests that covered the South. The America's Longleaf Restoration Initiative is a concerted effort to restore and conserve longleaf pine forests. The best part is, it's working. For more info, visit americaslongleaf.org. When buying a vehicle, don't waste your valuable time. David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota is committed to getting you the best deal on a new, used, or leased car. And David will do that without wasting your time. Don't play the back and forth game. See David Parnell today. Palmer's Toyota, 470 Schillinger Road South. That's David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota, 639-0800, extension 168. Don't forget to see David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota, Schillinger Road, just south of Airport. He won't waste your time.
Step up to the firing line. Armed Alabama is back. Questions, comments, and texts at 343-0106.
How you boys put those guns down?
Say what?
Well, we're not just going to let you walk out of here.
Who's we, sucker?
Smith and Wesson and me.
And we're not going to let you walk out of Armed Alabama. We're going to try to answer some questions, so let's get some more in. But our question now is from
John.
John, do you have a question for us?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I am an FFL holder.
Good.
And I have a private party in Grand Bay that wants me to transfer a handgun to them. Now, Bud's Gun Shop has a shipping service called shipmygun.com, and they have a prepaid label, send it to the seller, who in this case is a collector, but he's a private individual. He wants it to come to me, and then I will transfer it to the man in Grand Bay.
Right.
Obviously with the background check and everything else. Can I do the same thing as an FFL holder? Can I contract with the Federal Express or the post office to do the same thing that Bud's shop does?
And what you ought to do is you need to get on gun brokers list and all those people because for the people that don't know it, it was, I don't know if you saw this, it was either the head of the FBI or the second in charge. He said there weren't background checks if you bought a gun through the internet. And of course, there certainly are. If I bought a gun off of Gunbroker, a dealer, I would have him shipped to you, and then I would come into your place. I've paid him already. Come into your place. You get a fee for handling the transfer. I do the forms with you. You run the background check, and if it's clear, then you hand the gun over to me. But what I was going to say, too, is to be absolutely safe, if I was buying a gun or selling a gun to one of the people sitting in this studio, I really should go to you and do it that way. I mean, that way I'll be absolutely certain that it's a clean transfer.
Right.
But I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how Bud's service actually works, but FedEx will ship anything. The post office has some weird. You can ship a long gun. I can't remember them, but who would want to trust the post office anyway?
Yeah. Okay.
But
well, I'm just like I say, I'm just wondering because like they usually say FFL to FFL.
Yeah.
However, and this is coming from gun broker,
and you're saying it's
party is selling on gun broker.
Yeah.
However, if I was to like buy a prepaid label, it would just be like me shipping a gun from another state. Now, does that have anything to do with it? And
now Bud's is shipping it to you, correct?
Yeah, Bud. Now I don't know how the original owner, who's a collector, is dealing with Bud's.
Yeah,
he says it's a private party sale.
Yeah,
but Bud says in the service that they will send him a prepaid UPS or FedEx label that he could put on a box. In fact, they're going to even send him a box and then ship it to me, which is like obviously perfectly legal because you're still going FFL to FFL.
Yeah.
But can I do it by myself? In other words, can I initiate the label and have the original owner with obviously a picture ID and everything send it to me, and then I could transfer it to the man in Grand Bay?
I don't know that. I don't like the sound of it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm used to doing it the way you're used to doing it. And that just sounds, it's probably perfectly fine, but it's out of the ordinary. And when things are out of the ordinary, I just get concerned about them. If you'll listen next week, I'll see if I can figure it out.
It would be only one FFL included, and that's what my question was too.
Yeah, right. Mine too. Listen next week. I'll see if I can figure that one out.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, sir, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Interesting.
First-time listener.
Yeah, thank you. That's an interesting question because used to dealing assuming you're not dealing with an antique gun and you have somebody with one of the antique collector's licenses, but that I just don't like the sound of it.
A lot of people buy guns from Bud's. It's a good resource.
They're a big place. But,
or any of the online gun brokers, is a great resource to find a gun that you like or want or need when you may not necessarily find it locally. And you can have those firearms shipped to a local FFL, like you said. Pay the fee and take your firearm. To me, it's just a blatant lie to say that people are buying guns off the internet all day, every day, and when that's just not the case.
It's the same background check you would go through if you went down to McCoy's and bought a gun. And the thing about buying a gun online is my policy kind of is if they have the gun you want here, sure, I'd rather go down the street and buy it. But I've bought some used guns that you couldn't obviously find here, or some unusual guns that you couldn't find here, and done it that way and had it shipped to an FFL here, and you fill out the exact same forms. But I suppose what he's talking about is somebody probably has it on consignment with Bud's. I can't imagine they just have it listed with Bud's and Bud's just sends them the box. But I'll see if I can figure that one out. Anytime you deal with the feds and the law on gun licensing, you see what just happened to Stag Arms. The guy's out of business, and he built that company, to what it was, and he's forced out of it. He has, I think, $100,000 fine, and he's forced to sell out. And that's a shame. I've got 2 Stag Arms ARs, and that's the end of him. I'm reading one side of it, which I tend not to believe is the government side. But, you do one thing wrong and you're out of business.
No second chances.
No second chances with them.
So going back to what we were talking about earlier, and that's these no gun signs or no weapon signs.
One thing to remember, you're free to ignore them. Read that code section. Make sure you're in the clear. But if you see one in your doctor's office or whatever, now my doctor didn't have one, but I went and had a skin cancer removed, and when I lay down for him to remove it, I had my big Beretta M9 on, and the nurse kind of eyes got as big as saucers, and the doctor said, "Oh, he's got about 100 people trying to kill him. Don't worry about that." And so, they need to get used to, like I say, they didn't have a sign, but they need to get used to seeing firearms. As I said, it used to be that the criminals, the sneaky people, conceal guns. Now, mine was concealed, but when you're going to have, a little minor surgery like that, you got to reveal it.
Yeah. And so if you see those signs, like the judge stated earlier, take a picture of that, but take a good, clear picture, and you can email it to reports@armedalabama. I don't know if we gave that out earlier, but email those pictures of those signs to reports@armedalabama.com. All right. Moving on. Did you have anything else that you want to add on that?
Well, I wanted to add that Trump spoke at the NRA convention. Good speech. He was endorsed by the NRA. And, I don't think he's pandering. I think he was raised in New York City, thus probably had a point of view that was not particularly pro-gun early in his life. But
well, he had even given to some anti-gun groups, and that was one of my major concerns with Trump as a candidate. And that was, several articles was written on that, and it was clear for everybody to see, which I was glad for his speech that he made at the NRA convention.
Well, and we know what where she's coming from.
Yes.
Confiscation.
She had already stated that's exactly what she's going to do, and her daughter stated that's exactly what Hillary was going to do.
Absolutely. Frankly, I've just had enough of those people. I don't wish them any ill, but they need to just, as General MacArthur said, they need to fade away. And I'm ready for them just to fade away, the whole group of them.
All right, thank you so much for listening to tonight's show, and I would ask you to patron the businesses that support us, that allow us to be on the air, and that's David Parnell at Palmer's Toyota, Dr. Justin Foster at Foster's Chiropractic of Tillman's Corner, Mamoon Siddiq at Remax Realtors, and, of course, McCoy Outdoors. If you would like to advertise your business on Armed Alabama, please contact us or the station, and you can email me at adam@armedalabama.com, or, of course, the judge at armedalabama.com. So glad you could join us tonight. Catch us next week, same time, same channel, Armed Alabama.
Keep on shooting.
And I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee, a place where even squares can have a ball.